This over. Thank you for coming, everyone. It's really great to be here. It's really great to be here reading in Ottawa at the Tree Series. Thank you to Vera for reading. That was so amazing to hear. Thank you to all the open micers. That was amazing to hear too. I was just talking to Deanna earlier today about how I started reading at the Planet Earth Poetry reading series in Victoria, British Columbia. Started screwing all my courage up and going up and reading at the open mic. And so I really enjoy hearing that all the time. Makes me think of myself starting out. I'm going to do two things today, and I will try not to take up too much of your time. I'm going to read from Rove, the book that is sitting at the table over there. It's a long poem, so it's a series of titleless poems, a cycle of poems without titles on them. So I'll read from the first part of that, and then I'll read a few things from the new collection, which is coming out in the spring, in which there are a few that I feel confident enough to bring out into the world, bring out to parties, so I'll read those ones for you. Rove is a poem that tries to answer the very seemingly simple question, where do you come from, in a way that it makes sense and is perhaps trying to sort of reconcile what it means to be the descendant of homesteaders on the prairie. So I will just start reading, and as similar to Vera, you'll learn who I am through me reading this, so I won't do too much prefacing. Rove. Say cloverleaf, polyethylene. Say this parking lot slinks into marshland. Say it bristles into scrubland. Say this mall becomes a bonfire. You travel its plastic smoke. Say sky, fescue. Say Wissahickok. Say La Vérendrye and Henday. Say heart choke. Say ground break. Say garrison with gun barrel eyes. Say there's a fist yelling, this is my apartment now, in a language you don't know. Say geno, matra, patricide, regicide, and terracide, and skyicide. Say sapling. Say child blood. Cry doctor. Say your piece, then get out. Say translate, please translate. Say coyote. Say smallpox. Say creek bottom. Look, Wissahickok. Say big bear. Say frog lake, fresh loam, buffalo hide, free land, thistle, aspen, sweat. Riel, say Riel can govern in Michif. Say color, say colorless eye, say queen's portrait, say here is mine, I bought it. Say settler, claim poverty, profess better and see the felled trees. Say brethren, bread and wagons, say Spanish flu, say rail yard, sing the combustion engine, say the singing of your name in the new air, say virgin territory and believe it. Say the Lord's bounty, say the wheat fields, say the dust, pick the rocks, say canola and soybean, thresh, thrush, say the laundry on the line, say the dank root cellar, say the numbers, tell the wheat board where to go, say it fast like an auction and move to the city, say minimum wage and grunt while you work. Say benefits and rig pig derrick, oil sand, tailings pond boom. Say busted skull. Say tuition fund and heritage fund. Say concrete scaffold. Say it far from home. Say the length of your commute at the sound of the tone. Say Ralph Klein and spit in the dirt. Say sky dancer. Say Zwicky. Say Alberta and Saskatchewan and switch the order. Say Wayne Gretzky Drive. Say it's 5-on-3 and he's on a breakaway. Scream it in the riot on Canada Day. Whisper it into your lager. Say it from the hollow of the couch. Say it while you piss in the alley. Hiss it into your lover's ear. Say it to your broker and his secretaries. Tell it to the lawyer, to the landlord when the heat's turned off and the pipes freeze. Say it again to the food bank and again to the caseworker. Say cloverleaf, highway, polyethylene grocery sack. Say fluorescent light bulbs will save the earth. Say there's a heart in the middle of it. Please tell me you can hear it. Say glut and democracy. Say it in absentia. Say your little heartbeat. Send it through the layers. Say it in the muck, in this marsh, in this bristling parking lot. Now this family living on homesteads around Angle Lake and Meadow. Sitting around the table Saturdays before or after the dance, cigarettes and brown beer bottles, a family of ships run aground in the stiff grass. Now 2 dogs loping the acres surrounding, bought from the TransAlta lineman to keep the chickens safe and the colts. Bullet a streak across the hard brown after the coyote. Punch the killer, fear-eyed and big as a horse. Now the violent ribs of dogs drawn soft in childhood sleep, where Punch sits, Bullet sits, ears cocked at motion along the road, posing with the others, cigarettes and brown beer bottles, and the ability to laugh. Say they learned Ukrainian, these English dogs on land of Nahiawak, $10, 160 acres, a gift to my grandparents for obeying the rubric of farm. Now, in citied sleep, the sweepers sluicing the avenue after the music's turned off, Punch and Bullet corralling the young ones out of the bars and back to their capsizing suburbs. Say one was shot, mistaken by the neighbor for a coyote. The other found at the shore of the lake with his chest torn away. These dogs like ships, tracking such a great distance. 3 penciled names on a torn page in my mother's jewel box. Bolishi, Moatiski, Drogovic. Not sure where these are, but I'm from there, in part. Ukrainians clearing poplars from their 160 acres all winter, vowing never to utter those names again. The grass-green bed of the suburb in windshot of Refinery Row. The displace of airplane, greyhound, ship across, house across, field into town, the men all around, hollering it to its destination. See the house peeking through bush rows at 2nd Street. 2 tight rooms the width of my grandfather's memory, when the house was still on the homestead, gazing high and west and south over the swells. Watch the 12 horses pulling it to town. Might have been winter, but probably not, and old widows can't farm homesteads alone. See the bow of the window glass, foundation sinking in the ebb of yard. The oldest thing I know, besides the arrowheads. Or the small gold cross in my mother's jewel box. Baba stopping the school bus in a blizzard to clasp it around her scoured neck. See the barn on the homestead chipping gray and collapsing as you read this. And the house in town stooped under good new shingles and strong chimney. There's nothing to say what survives. Now conjure a boy, nice enough and shy, carrying a sadness not entirely his own. He doesn't know his father, though they sleep one room apart. The boy grows up and has to marry because he has to, because that's how. Assume the woman is too smart and she gets angry. Farming doesn't give him nothing. Neither will the job at the hospital, retirement, widowerhood, grief. There's his daughter working checkout at the Safeway, taking the teaching route instead of the nursing route because this is the 60s and you can do whatever you want. Her mother on the farm wanting the nursing route but instead given a husband. Sad, sick, about to auction off to the city, sending the daughter off with every blessing. The young woman able to breathe at last, weighing bags of oranges, punching out the numbers, bobbing in the chop of the lecture hall. Will her own daughter track up the highway after some almost invisible river? Will she ferry herself east to Canadian London, walk a field of soybeans after some desk job? Will she stretch the length of the Strait of Juan de Fuca twice yearly, bomb south from Edmonton, a 2-4 of hours gets you Salt Lake City? Will she reach the breadth of humanity on a 2-day Greyhound bus? Will she have her kernel planted, wantonly planted, in the self-same, wouldn't you know it place, beyond need, seasickness, the story of land, beyond this grief in wild crowns? The family round the table never talking about what they have to do to get the land working. The Saturday dances get told, the roving packs of musicians, the roving doctors, the young men on the threshing crews, those 3 nice Indian brothers, what were their names? Saying Ketchamayish for Yakshamayish, how are you, to the women in town. Going to church, singing mass, the blessed bread, the tidied graves. Then oil is discovered and they rove away. 2 generations of farmers. The wars fought to have this right to vacate. See the branches of the suburbs blossom wild with bungalows. See the grass green, the oil refinery, the tight gray brickwork of a city shamed to forgetfulness. Big Bear, look, these brick lanes are the reason you were starved off. Wandering spirit, look, no place for a warrior but the streets and the penthouses. This is why you were hung. Look, there's no ground here. They've stretched the concrete flat. Look how big the houses in the valley. Look at this religion of parking lots. You know they plant these crops all over. They won't tell us how much the oil wells spend. They show the paper flying from hands and pockets. And look how people beg on corners, bless the rot-gut whiskey. Look how they rove on air and water, gazing down the blinking planet. Look what they have to do to sleep inside. And remember how their soldiers kept on coming. Now Baba's memory of Cossacks, thundering west down White Avenue in Edmonton. Tough bald heads and beards and stinking tunics and cocked rifles and the hooves casting wide circles and the horses crazed for being too much alive. On the bus bench, staring down the army and navy, chest full to bursting in the Cossack charge, I aim my mind's rifle at the patio dwellers, at the citizens holding fast to their corners, relying on the light's ability to change, who turn up their imperial noses, these Cossacks another abominable delay, a way to show the daily ease of their anger. And bless the trinket shops behind me, anonymous and mutable, leaning away from their squat brick limits towards the scent of Cossacks stirring garbage and dust, the flying tails of matted hair, the dangerous torsos, the swords clanging. Bless my mother, remembering Baba, remembering Cossacks like a bad wind, wild hippie howling men. Gazes haunted by want and possession, Baba frightened into stillness as a girl, not knowing what she'd do if she lifted 1 foot off the dirt road in their presence, and me not knowing if there was dirt or cement under her feet to begin with. These Cossacks bellowing with their swords or rifles aloft, crushing the pavement and the piping beneath, these dutiful, pissed-off citizens waiting at the crosswalks for a destroyed road, the tremors of impossible existence, one at the rear turning on the back of his horse and pointing his sword at me, his rifle at me. A heavy laugh bumping his spine through the curvature of horse, and I swear the earth curves in concert. The furthest reaches of Baba's old world. The quaking depth of his laugh, and he's blasting west, and my foot rises above the concrete 2 inches, 3, as the last of them charges toward the moneyed halls of learning, the museums of bone and shale. The Cossacks will destroy them. I know this is more than a memory of a mother's memory, of a great-grandmother's memory, of a world she stepped out of so neatly in my mind and into Canada. See this soil swallowed in thin, hard gulps in all the cities I've lived. Make this street a field edge. Look, the birthing crops are nameless. If it looks like foxtail, it's barley, she said. The wind gathering, the dirt crust waning, the chemical smell on the air. The mown miles, the refinery blowing its garbage across my childhood sky. My mother picking rocks from the sky as a child, all the places she can go. See it recede, this field full of crop. Speak this epoch of weeds through concrete. So that's the start of that one. Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. The second batch of poems, I've got 3 here that I'll read for you. It comes from a book that's coming out in the spring called Settler Education. And it's sort of dealing with exactly that, the process of educating oneself about the place that you live, which is so often for the average person whose ancestors don't come from here, is a process of self-education, is still a process of doing it yourself. As most of you know who have gone to school here, you don't often hear the stories of your place in school. You have to get them from elsewhere. And so that's sort of what this book is about. And I'm dealing with a similar sort of area, geographical area as Rove, the part of east central Alberta and west central Saskatchewan, which was the site of where what's called the Northwest Resistance took place. And I'm even zooming in a bit further to a focus on, it's total settler trope I'm committing here, and I admit it. I'm looking at the Frog Lake Massacre, which was a scene of incredible violence that was brought about from a number of factors, really complex sort of story that led to the killing of nine settlers, as well as sort of untold Métis people by the warriors and the war chief of Big Bear's band. This was a culmination of a lot of years of forced starvation and a lot of really sort of terrible treatment on at the hands of or by the Indian agent in the Frog Lake area, a man named Thomas Quinn. Notoriously cruel. The government sort of brought or forced Big Bear's band to the Frog Lake area because they knew the reputation this guy had and what he did, usually to the people there. And the buffalo were gone. They'd been commercially hunted off the prairie, and so they had little choice. They needed to eat, and so they moved to this area, and this violence ensued. So that's sort of the nucleus, the kernel of the book, and then it expands out from there. It goes in a bunch of different places. But I will start by reading a poem called Number 1 Canadian, which is the name of the Via Rail train that leaves from Toronto and goes as far as Vancouver. So when it goes west, it's the number 1. When it comes back east, it's the number 2. Number 1 Canadian. Stutter stepping. The last fumes out of Ontario. Beds and sliding doors and dining cars tunneling through the forest, its genealogy of clear-cut, its firework trees new and hot. We show them our ghost stations. We show them tea at the window as birch die tangled in power lines, birch hauling lines down to the level of marsh, and marsh rising to meet electricity. This is the line. A propane tank every 50 clicks. Wall-eyed chutes and utility corridors, gift-buying hours in the recreation car, and hints of lake and wood smoke if you're looking for them. No "Oh My Nation," no "God Save Our Queen," no colonial imperative except in our being here, in what it means to shower on a moving train, track rolling under the drain hole, the luxurious pillows, my last-minute discount. This is what they starved a people for. Through tree scenes, tableau in the dome car, the soldiers, the settlers, the track laid, the way made, making goods of them. Servants, subjects, comrades, always more, and the trees smolder, the trace smoke in the camera's vision that comes of passing too fleetly. We pause at vistas and wildlife, coniferous worming at the periphery. A train car neat with men and their rifles. Outside, threads of camp smoke obscured by clouds, by trees. And ships full with people, flat and heavy, an ocean of skin. Skin seeping, weeping wounds and stomach virus. all the meat rancid in barrels, all the bacon rancid in the fort, and the Cree starving through winter, camped within sight of the stockpiles. And how hard it is for me to write what came before. And the tree planters paying down their student loans, their blisters an economy of impatience. The travelers restless rounding the big lakes, they buy the wild blueberries, they take photos of each other beside dead buildings along the line, they fixate in the dome car as the last light leaves the sky. They wonder why we're stopped here, why we're waiting, again, every goddamn freight train, waiting, middle of nowhere. This next one's called Battleford Gravesite, and it involves a visit to the site where the 8 Cree men were buried after being hanged in Fort Battleford for the shootings at Frog Lake. The fourth part of this comes from a book by a man named W.B. Cameron, who was one of the hostages taken after Frog Lake. He was working for the Hudson's Bay Company at the time. He turned into a writer in his, not long after that, and sort of was at the time. And so he gives a fairly detailed, though perhaps untrustworthy account of the events surrounding the Frog Lake incident as well as the events after it. So take that fourth section with a bit of a grain of salt. Battleford Gravesite. Tonight the clouds are tall and turquoise. North Battleford. I should mention, do you know where Battleford is, everyone? If I say that, do you know? It's in Saskatchewan. It's on the North Saskatchewan River. I suggest you go there someday. It's really quite beautiful country. Tonight the clouds are tall and turquoise. North Battleford along the motel strip. Pickup trucks darkly uniform, kitted out, wide, lined up in the parking lot. Dump trucks head to toe along the service road. You'll be talked to in your dream tonight. You'll learn how things are done here. You'll forget. There'll be lightning, then the sun will push out like an egg, metallic and hard, before receding into redness. You won't sleep long. In the morning, the Battle River will sparkle nearly white, but it's too much. Your eyes can't take that much brightness. Beyond the fort site, behind the campsite, down in the valley overlooking ball fields, angled at the river, away, the 8 bodies turned under grassland. Wandering spirit song to his wife, still unfinished underground. The saplings making cover, rocking themselves. Your camera, your hands, your mouth, your feet soft but for the dust clouds, though it rained last night, or was that your dream? The 8 poles above the scrub line in your photo. Show some respect and keep your distance. Though with no paved route, no federal plaque, you don't know what respect is. Colony of raspberries thick within the chain link, penning in the burial site. The song to a wife. 3 cigarettes for a stone. A death song mixed with earth. The wind above, the poplars shielding. The sun above, the poplars diffusing. The film canisters you thought you'd fill with dirt. The names you write on a receipt from Fort Battleford. Kape Pamachakweo, Papa Mikisik, Manchus, Kitawa Kini, Napes, Apischaskus, all Mistahimaskwa's men, plus 2 who killed cut knife settlers, Itka and Wewinich. Kape Pamachakweo, I said. This is the 4th section I was talking about. Kape Pamachakweo, I said. You have been shut up here for 4 months. You might at any time have made a statement about the massacre. You have not done so. Your followers all place the blame for what occurred on you. I don't believe you are quite so bad as they make you out. Therefore, I have come to see you. Tomorrow it will be too late. If you wish to speak, to say anything in your own defense, I shall be glad to take it down. It will be printed. He was silent for a long time. Amasis, Big Bear's son, told me at a dance one night before the outbreak that he depended on me to do this thing. I fought against it. I wished last winter to leave the band and go to Duck Lake. My relatives lived there. Amasis nor the others would let me go. Kapwatamut, the Indian agent, a.k.a. Thomas Quinn, would give me no provisions. It seemed it was to be. I was singled out to do it. Suppose I had been with the other whites at Frog Lake at the moment they were shot. What then, Kape Pamachakweo? He considered before replying. We were singing, he said at length. The young man in loose red serge packing a cannon will soon be replaced by an interpretive sign. And the one sign you need to see most is not here. November 27th, 1885, 8 in the morning. Wandering spirit, round the sky, bad arrow, miserable man, iron body, little bear, crooked leg, and man without blood. The grass matted, the sun whitening. River gold in the eye, in the distance. Tonight you'll sing their names out the window of your motel room. You'll gape as the city gathers its pickups and particle board, its flagpoles and power lines, vacancy, no vacancy signals. Clouds like stories, as high as you can see, dark turquoise. And I will end with a poem called RCMP Barracks. I think it technically contravenes the Bill C-51, so don't rat me out. Set in the RCMP Museum and Barracks are in Regina, Saskatchewan. That's the site where Louis Riel was hanged in 1885, November. And I went there to go try and see if anyone, put up a plaque or sort of relegated some sort of monument to that space or had anything to say about it. So I wrote a poem about that. I basically went there to get a poem, and then I got one and came home. It worked. They haven't marked this spot. I should say before I start, thank you all for coming once again. It was really great to read for you. They haven't marked this spot where he was hanged. It might be in the parking lot where they keep the fleet vehicles. Nobody knows. Maybe near the chapel, but you can't go there. You could try to leave the grounds, come at it from the other side, but the guy taking admission in the museum is doubtful. In your path, a series of security guards reciting their lines. You need a chaperone. It's a secure area. You'll have to come back for a tour. A guard at a desk inside a condo called Fort Dufferin says, you know what they say, eh? They say go out there and pick a tree, and that's where it happened. They got the rope in here. I know the woman who's restoring it. Hanged implies blame, and you're afraid to say it, but you say hanged over and over to people with weapons in their belts. And you hustle through the museum, snapping pictures, scribbling down each theft, the moccasins behind glass, the beadwork, the Red River cart, and a wide shot of the doorway to a little room with canvas door flaps, security camera above. Retiree in a blazer encouraging you to take pictures while you're in the middle of taking a picture, trying to be friendly the way a cop tries to be friendly. He reads you, and he's rusty, and this might anger him. He tells you to go into the little room and press the English button. There's going to be a thunderstorm, he says. Handcuffs through the decades, Dickens' sword and Strange's medals, dozens of buckles and buttons, the buffalo in the center of each badge, dramatization of buffalo staring, their Peabody single-shot rifles, their handguns, their drawings of the cannons they dragged across the prairie, the spoils of war, the boots and guns, everything side by each. To qualify for the force, recruits had to be able to ride a horse and to read and write in either English or French. They had to enlist for 3 years and were paid 75 cents per day. The Northwest Campaign, 3 accounts. No Big Bear or Pound Maker, treasonous for expressing peace and doubt and hence omitted. Beardy given voice, here's my treaty medal. If you believe me, return it. Métis through the headphones saying, we'll fight if necessary. The Northwest Mounted Police are silent because the tape won't play. And you're getting it now, just like they got it and put it on display. Riel's Bible, his knife, his holster, his crucifix. The noose is in the back. You met a guy who knows the woman who's restoring it. Thank you very much.